Hi guys, in this tutorial we're working with conditionals, or in simple terms we're going to use an if statement. And since last tutorial I've updated this thing from x86 to x64 because I've been having troubles running Visual Studio. So if you have some weird errors you might want to do that as well. Right, so that's what we have so far, which prints hello world. And we're going to use an if statement to then change the control or change the execution flow of the program. You commonly want to do that because, for example, you're checking for some condition, and then based on whether the condition gives you a yes or a no, you want to do something informed by the condition's result. And that's where an if statement comes in. An if statement syntax is if, and then you have the parentheses between which you have the Boolean value, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then based on if this is a yes or a no, you do, or you can do, two things. So if the condition inside the parentheses gives you a yes or true, then you do this branch, else you do that branch. And this is another very fundamental concept in many programming languages, being able to control the flow by using an if statement. So this brings us to our Boolean variables. So in the last video we covered a bunch of variable types and how to declare variables and also assign some values. And you might remember that it's the form in which you write the variable declare variables is you have variable type, then you have variable name, which is has enough money, for example. Then the equals symbol or assignment operator, and then you have the value. Now, bool type can only be one of the two values, which is good because we know if it's not something, then it has to be the other one. And the two values are true or false, which you may be familiar with from different languages. So if it's not true, it has to be false, and if it's not false, it has to be true. Let's do that and use this Boolean in here, which means suppose you're in a game and you're in a shop. Your game character can buy something if the character has enough money, and obviously if the character doesn't, then they can't buy anything. So we could say something like, we can buy this item. Similarly, in the else branch, which will be executed when this thing is false, we cannot buy this item because not enough money. Let's run and see. So we have hello world, which is the very first thing to be printed. And then we're saying that we can buy this item because the value of this variable is set to true. If we set it to false, then we can run the other branch, which is we cannot buy this item because not enough money. So you can see how this works. If this thing is true, then we do this, else we do this. You don't have to have an else part of this syntax, so you can just get rid of it like that if you didn't need that. Now, this is hard-coded, so that means even without running the program, we know which branch will be executed. Let's make this slightly more interesting by having an int variable, which is also going to be hard-coded, but it's going to give you an extra layer of checking. And then finally, we're going to take user input and then do something based on what the user provided, what the user typed in to the terminal. So let's say money. So we've created a variable of type int called money, and then the value is going to be 300. This is the character money. Now, if that is greater or equal to, say, 200, which is going to be the cost of the item that we're trying to buy, then we can simply do this expression over here, right? It's just assigned to the Boolean value because the result of this is a Boolean. And that's a nice way of converting your different types to a Boolean type. Just compare the type against its own type. So here we're comparing int to an int. We're saying, please check that this is greater or equal to this value. And whatever the result is, store it in this variable called hasEnoughMoney. And then the rest of the code remains unchanged. Even without running this, we can kind of see which is going to be executed, because 300 is definitely greater than 200. So the character should be able to buy this item. And if the money was 100, then guess what happens? We cannot buy the item. So that's again hard-coded. Let's go one step further and take user input. Suppose we have a string called password. It's going to store our password, which is super not secure. And we're then going to have to include string so that we can get access to the getLine function, which we already used in the very first video in the series. So first of all, we want to declare our string input. This is where we're going to store the input. And then we can call getLine, which takes the in stream and then the string itself where we're going to store it. This function gets contents from the terminal and puts them inside this string, which means we can now compare the two. Suppose we do something like this. So here, instead of creating another Boolean variable, I use this check right inside the if statement, which is something that you can do. So here, for example, we didn't need to do this. We could have taken this and just placed it inside the if statement directly. This is useful when you don't want to store the variable result of the check in a variable. Because, for example, you don't need this variable. You're not going to use it anywhere else. Then you can just do this. But we've already done this example, so let's get rid of it. So if input equals our password, which means the user typed exactly the same characters, we can say something like logging in. How about that? The first thing that was printed is hello world, which is, the very top line. But you might want to change it to something like enter your password. Let's type something that is not the password. Not password. Nothing happens, as in the logging in isn't printed. Let's run this again, and then this time type the actual thing, which is password. And you can see that it prints logging in. So that's how you can take user input and then do something with it based on what the user typed. We could also add an else branch to this thing, saying password incorrect. or actually, something that you see more commonly is username or password is incorrect. Because we don't really want to tell whoever's trying to log in whether they actually got the username right. Because if you know your username, obviously you know that you got it right. Yeah, let's try that. Hello world, just type something. Username or password is incorrect. Cool. Right, so that's enough for this video. As for the task, what I'd like you to do is, based on that, write something like enter username, and then take that username from the user. Enter password, and these are presumably some things that you're going to print to the terminal so that the user then types something in. Enter password, and then maybe enter email. So once you've done these and you've taken them from the user, store them inside a variable, and then print something like enter login details, and then you ask for the username again. And this time you're checking this username against the one that you've already taken previously. It's all part of the same program. We haven't covered how to store these yet, so it's fine if you run this as part of the same program. And then you do enter password, and then instead of entering email, you might want to say, here's your email, and then print the email address, provided that they've entered the username and password correctly. And on that note, we're going to finish. You can complete this video task at any time, as all of this is delivered asynchronously. And in the next session, we're going to talk about your assignment. And also for the asynchronous video, we're going to do loops. Thanks for watching.